You ever wonder why no matter how much you chase money, women, status, or success, something still feels missing? Like there's this emptiness that never really goes away. That's because every man carries a God-sized hole in his heart, and we try to fill it with everything the world tells us will make us whole until it all falls apart. You might not even realize it's there until you lose something or someone you thought you couldn't live without. That's when it hits you. The silence, confusion, the questions that don't go away. That's when heartbreak happens. And here's the crazy part: heartbreak isn't the end. It's actually the moment God finally gets your attention. It's when He breaks you down so He can rebuild you into who you were always meant to be. Today, I want to talk about how heartbreak exposes that God sized hole in your heart and how letting Him fill it changes everything about the kind of man you become. Most men spend their early years chasing fulfillment in all the wrong places. We think we just find the right girl, the right job, the right life, we'll finally feel complete. We're told that happiness is something we achieve instead of something we receive. So we chase attention, we chase validation, we chase success thinking it'll fix the emptiness that we never really talk about. You start thinking, once I get that girl, I'll be good. Once I make this money, I'll be happy. But deep down, you know you've said that before, and it still didn't fix it. The human heart was never designed to be satisfied by anything temporary. Every time you try to fill a spiritual void with a worldly thing, it leaves you more empty than before. That's the cycle most guys get stuck in. We start to depend on things that were never meant to hold the weight of our souls, and eventually they crack under the pressure. That's when heartbreak happens, not just losing a person, but losing the illusion that they could save you. Heartbreak doesn't just hurt, it reveals. It's not about losing her, it's about realizing you built your identity around someone who was never meant to be your foundation. You start asking questions like, why wasn't I enough? Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And in those moments, the noise of the world quiets down. You can't escape into your phone, or friends, or even your routine. The pain is too loud. That's often the first time you actually hear God's voice. It's gentle, but it cuts deep. It says, you've been chasing everything but me. Heartbreak strips away the lies we built our lives on. It humbles us. It forces us to face ourselves, the parts we've ignored for years. It's in that emptiness that you realize the love you were looking for in people was something only God could give. Every man eventually hits that point where he can't carry the weight anymore. You can pretend you're fine, you can keep yourself busy, but late at night when everything's quiet, the pain sits heavy on your chest. It's that moment where you finally say, I can't do this anymore. And that's exactly where God meets you. He doesn't come in with lightning or thunder. He shows up in your brokenness, in the tears, in the exhaustion, because God can't fill what you keep pretending isn't empty. Sometimes He allows heartbreak to happen, not to punish you, but to free you. You see, God will break your heart if that's what it takes to save your soul. And that sounds harsh, but it's actually mercy, because He knows that pain has a way of getting your attention like nothing else can. That's when you stop trying to be strong for everyone else and finally let yourself be weak before Him. When you finally give your pain to God, everything changes. That heartbreak that once made you bitter starts to make you better. You stop seeing it as, she hurt me, and start seeing it as, God is healing me. You start understanding that maybe He removed her because He knew that version of you wasn't ready for the future He planned. That process hurts, it's very slow, and it's very lonely, but it is very, very necessary because growth never happens in comfort. One day you'll look back and realize the heartbreak that broke you was actually the thing that built you. It forced you to pray when you would have partied. It forced you to listen when you would have talked. And it forced you to rebuild when you wanted to run. And through that process, you begin to find peace again. Not because everything went back to normal, but because you finally stopped trying to control what was never yours to control. Let's be real. Most men don't heal, they distract. They run from the pain instead of facing it. They dive into the gym trying to outlift their emotions. They chase new girls hoping to forget the old ones. They bury themselves in work or money just to prove they're still winning. But the wound doesn't close, it just hides. And every time you avoid healing, you carry that pain into the next season of your life. It starts to change how you treat people, how you trust, and how you love. You become guarded, cold, distant. You think that's strength, but it's really fear in disguise. You're not protecting yourself, you're keeping yourself from ever being loved again. And that's not what God wants for you. He wants to turn that pain into wisdom, not walls. So instead of numbing the pain, let Him use it. Sit with it and pray through it. Because when you face it head on, you finally give God space to heal what's been hidden for too long. Heartbreak reveals your idols. It exposes what you're truly living for. Maybe it wasn't about the girl. Maybe it was about the version of yourself you were trying to prove through her. You loved being the guy who had it all together, until God reminded you that without Him, you're still just dust and breath. God doesn't waste pain, He uses it to humble you. He'll let you lose what you thought you needed so you can discover what you really needed, which was Him. When that happens, your prayers start to change. You stop saying, God, give her back, and start saying, God, give me peace, give me purpose, make me more like you, and let your will be done. That's the moment you start to grow into the kind of man who leads and not pleads, who builds instead of begs, and who worships instead of worries. You start realizing your worth isn't in being chosen by someone, it's being chosen by God. There's a season after heartbreak that's quiet, almost too quiet. It's not dramatic anymore, it's just empty space. And that's where God does His best work. He starts teaching you discipline, patience, and contentment. You stop living for attention and start living for alignment. You start to love solitude because you're no longer afraid of silence. You've made peace with it. This is when you begin to rebuild. You hit the gym, not to get revenge, but to steward your body. You work hard, not to prove something, but to honor what God gave you. You start setting standards, not out of pride, but out of peace. The quiet season doesn't look exciting, but it's sacred. It's when you find your identity again, not in what you lost, but in who you've become. Once you let God fill the empty space, everything else starts to make sense. You stop living from a place of lack and start living from abundance. You no longer chase people, you attract peace. You no longer beg for love, you give it freely. And you no longer depend on others for joy, because your joy finally comes from something eternal. When God fills that hole, your heart becomes steady. The same storms that used to break you now just remind you of who's really in control. You can look back at the pain with gratitude, because now you see that heartbreak wasn't a setback, it was a setup for spiritual growth, for strength, and for peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. And here's what's powerful. When you've healed, love looks different. You no longer go into relationships hoping to be completed. You go in ready to contribute. You love from fullness, not from fear. You stop needing constant reassurance because you've rooted yourself in something deeper. You stop expecting another person to make you feel whole because you already know who made you whole. And that's when you finally become the kind of man who can lead with love instead of desperation. The kind of man who doesn't run from commitment, but also doesn't settle for counterfeit connections. Because now you know what real love feels like, and that's the love of God. If you're in that season right now, hurting, confused, and trying to understand why God let this happen, don't waste it. This is the refining fire. This is where He's shaping you. He's teaching you to rely on Him. He's teaching you that peace doesn't come from being loved, it comes from being known. And He's showing you that heartbreak is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your purpose. The hole in your heart isn't proof that something's wrong with you. It's proof that you were made for something greater than this world can offer. So let God fill it, because when He does, everything changes. Heartbreak doesn't define you, it refines you. It's not that there to destroy your faith, it's there to strengthen it. Every tear, every night you felt alone, every prayer you thought He didn't hear, it all mattered, because that's where your foundation was built. When you finally let God into that space, you'll see that what once tore you apart was exactly what He used to make you whole. So next time you feel like that hole is in your chest, don't rush to fill it with noise. Sit in it, pray through it, and let God work through it. Because that hole was never meant to be filled by her, by success, or by the world. It was meant to be filled by Him. Once you realize that, you'll understand. Heartbreak wasn't the end of your story, it was the start of your redemption. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. At the time of recording this, I am at 75 subscribers on this channel, and that is just absolutely mind-blowing to me. I started this channel like maybe not even a month ago, and it's already grown to this level, and I've had people text me, reach out, and just saying how much these videos help, so that really just motivates me and pushes me and drives me to just keep making content better and better each and every time, and hopefully I'll be able to help one of y'all in this video too. So Make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave comments down below of like any video ideas you want to hear. Thank you so much for watching. Toodaloo.